Before you talk, can I just say thank you, Councilman Peluso, for being here. We appreciate you. Councilmember Chris Miller is way in the back. Y'all, it's nice when your council people show up, you know? They want to hear all this stuff too, but we appreciate it. We appreciate them. That's something they don't have to do with their busy schedules either. So thank you. I also see Wanyoni Kendrick, who failed to stand up when I was asking my team members to stand up. Wanyoni, stand up. Wanyoni is in charge of our IT department. And she is the brilliant mind behind all the wonderful work that we've been doing to make sure the permitting process and so many of our other transparency dashboards that show you everything that we're doing in the city that you would ever want to see. She's just been amazing to work with. So thank you, Wanyoni, for being here. Maybe you weren't here when I had everybody stand up. You weren't. Okay. All right. You get a pass. Okay. Now, sir, if you would say your name for me.
My name is Gerald Deegan.
Gerald, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming to this meeting with us tonight. I want to ask one question. Edison Avenue, I hope it's in the budget for the streets. We have such many trucks, a lot of trucks, because I'm working on the other businesses that are in that area, and our streets are terrible. For the residents to be going back and forth at home. I didn't hear it in the budget plan, but y'all can spare a little change for Edison Avenue.
What are you looking to happen on Edison Avenue?
They need to be repaved.
Repaved. Nina, can you speak to that? Nina Sickler, Public Works.
Good evening. So, those tax resource projects are not listed separately in the CIP. We have an ongoing annual budget for that. So what we do is we evaluate each road every 2 years and we score it. So I will be glad to get your contact information and let me know where that street is on the list and give you an idea of what kind of schedule that might be.
I think what happened is that because of the work on Floyd Street and other businesses that's in that area now, you may haven't come in on that side of town lately, but it is bad. And because of the heavy trucks, and it's going to get worse because they're closing off several streets. And Edison is going to be one of the streets that is going to be going down. And we just need a little attention.
You'll see me right now, so I'll get your contact information and get back to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Hi.
Hello, my name is Tom Ennis, and I'm not here about the budget thing.
Okay.
I talked with someone about a situation having with a housing problem.
With a housing problem?
Yes.
Okay. Can you be more specific?
I've been to Jacksonville Housing Authority, that place for nothing to the children. I've been down there 2 times, they told me they are closed for 3 years. If they're closed, why am I talking to people on the phone that are telling me they're closed?
Who can talk with this gentleman? I'm trying to, can you talk to him, Trace? Okay.
I've been down there twice.
Oh, Thomas Waters is here, okay. Thomas Waters from Neighborhoods is here, he will be glad to talk with you. And we'll get your information and we'll make sure that we address your issue.
Well, there needs to be somebody who can straighten the place out. I know they've had trouble down there last year.
They did.
Through the fire.
Yep.
The third person called Steve. But my point of issue is, I'm in a situation where in 6 months to a year, I lose everything in my apartment. And my apartment manager has told me all he needs.
It's okay, take your time. I can see that you're upset and I don't blame you. Go ahead. It's okay.
All he needs is me to get a voucher. They tell me that way there's 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
I would like to talk to whoever that gentleman is.
Okay, that's Thomas. He's coming right down here to you. Tracy, you might wanna join in on that conversation. Sounds like this is something that might require a little more depth too. If you would go talk to those 2 folks, we will get you taken care of. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you placing your faith in us. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sally Barnes.
Hey, Sally.
We are being asked to tax for the garbage collection, our garbage is picked up by the city of Jacksonville, not the Meridian Mail. And it's all of our cities, and I live in Northside, and my person, and I live in Northside, why is that we have paid for Meridian, so we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Our garbage is picked up by the city of Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think you're conflating two different things. The Meridian legislation is separate from what we just did with the garbage fee. One doesn't have anything to do with the other, okay? One was a hauler that came in and said, hey, we're not getting enough money to cover our costs. The other haulers are making a different rate than we are, and we need to rectify that. You had that on that side, okay? On the other side, you had a garbage fee. It's a fee for service that hasn't gone up in 15 years to match the fee. What our city ordinance says is our fees need to match what we pay, at least up to 85%. They haven't come close. So what's happening is every year we borrow from the general fund to pay for something that the beaches are already paying for, and frankly, that we have in an ordinance that we should be paying for. So I give council huge kudos on this one because they had the courage to tackle something that no other council before them for many years would even touch because they were worried that people would be upset. Councilman Carlucci went all over the city to talk to CPACs and town halls on his own to talk about why it was necessary. And the fact is, if we are going to serve the people of this city and pick up your garbage on a regular basis in a timely manner, we got to be able to pay for that service. So it is a fee for service, and it's going to go up in a stepped manner. In fact, I think Councilman Miller is the one that probably put me over the top to supporting it, because what happened was he introduced legislation to say, hey, let's not do this all at once. Let's step it up a little bit at a time so that people can absorb it. And that way we can pay for this service. And people that are 150% of poverty are exempt from that. But beyond that, it is something we absolutely needed to do. It was a responsible thing to do, and I give council a whole lot of credit for doing it, and I was happy to support it. But they don't have anything to do with each other, and I have found that in every single conversation I've had, there's been confusion about that, and I get that because we were talking about both at the same time. This isn't about you having Meridian or not Meridian. Everybody in the city will pay that increased garbage fee to match what it costs for us, and over time it will match what it costs, or come close anyway.
Okay, my second thing is that in Northwest Jacksonville, Robertson Dictionary, we haven't had anything done over there in 47 years. I have two houses there. Our streets are bad. There's a ditch going between my house and the south end. We got to come several times. I feel, yeah, I asked them, and the only thing they have to do is call that ditch for my house to get fixed. But nobody did anything so far.
I'm sorry, can you tell me the location again?
Yes, I live 26 to the Commonwealth Avenue. That ditch runs through there.
Okay.
I said to talk to the guy's family. I brought somebody off and gave it. And I told them they need to do something about this ditch before I got back to them now. They didn't come. And our street is a V-shape out there. I called in and answered, well, the reason I couldn't do that in our street, I got to email from somebody saying, you don't have anything to come with that over there on my side. And it's not that. I mean, I think it's a bit.
Okay, let me find out. Nina, can you address that?
Would love to talk to you about education and the condition of the road, things to get. So, if come see me when you're done with Mike, and we'll get an understanding of your concerns, and we'll give you a response.
Okay, that's good. My thing says you check every couple of years. This has been going on. I don't know if they're over years.
I think she was specifically talking about road repaving.
No. It hasn't been.
Oh, okay.
Rebuilt.
Okay.
And we built up the dumpsters like this in a V-shape. And then we had truck traffic also come through there. This is an excluded section of road.
Nina, what are the criteria that are?
We need to know if there are roadside ditches on Commonwealth, if you need them, we do have annual outfall cleaning, so just understanding if it's vegetation, if it's silting, whatever, if it's silting or vegetation, we do have a contract to continue to clean those. So So, you know, so maybe some that, you know, we filled up over time and that we're missing, and we'd be glad to take them down.
Would you mind just giving her, just so we make sure we get through everybody, make sure, don't give her as many details as you can give her, and give her your information so she can look into that and get back to you?
I can do that again, because I gave them copy of the GIS map and it's not her. I was told by James Carroll, he said, what would you? I said, what he meant is that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I don't think you've talked to Nina at this point, and that's why I'm here, to get my team members completely focused on what your issues are. Thank you. Sorry for your frustration. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Madam Mayor, my name is Carol Hawkins.
Hi, Carol.
I'm here, but I'm not here representing them in an official capacity. I'm just here for myself personally. As you know, we are picking up the issue also of affordable housing this year. Something we're very concerned about. We've heard about it in our churches. And, you know, we have had meetings with some council members, including Councilman Carlucci and Mr. Reggie Gaffney Jr. And Joshua Hicks has met with us twice, which we really appreciated. There are still some things that are bothering me that I'd like to ask you about. One thing is, I don't remember hearing about 4,000 affordable housing units in any of our conversations, so I'm wondering how that happened. And then Mr. Hicks did share with us last year's budget cycle's plan, which did get removed from the budget for, it sounded like an affordable housing trust fund, although he called it something slightly different. And I'm wondering if that is still something you're pursuing this year. And we were concerned with that one. We liked the idea, but we were concerned about it being privatized. It looks like it's being sent down to a nonprofit. And
There was a fund that we wanted to put together that was partially city funded, partially nonprofit funded. I think those public-private partnerships are very effective. It puts some skin in the game from the city and from our nonprofit and private partners. So that was, if that's what you're talking about, we presented that to council last year. That has not gone through yet, but we're going to continue to work with council to try to bring that back, because ultimately that would be an enormous help for us in terms of creating additional affordable housing units. And it would over time become, what was the total on that? $120 million over time, and that's money the city gets back eventually. Yeah. So it's a great investment, and when you have private entities investing along with you, I think that's very helpful.
yeah, I think it wasn't the partnership that was of a concern. It was more the, it didn't seem like there was quite a lot of oversight by the government on that. And what we understand from other communities that do affordable housing trust funds is they normally run it as a public program. This looked like it was going to be administered actually by the private nonprofit. There would be some reporting to the city, but it seemed like there was a concern with that being the public oversight of that. That maybe to put that kind of money in, we would need to have a little bit more city ownership of the administration.
Do we have anybody here that can address that, or not tonight? No.
I'm here from the community.
Thank you. Well, fill everybody in, because it'd be good to know the answer to her question.
I'm Robin Goldscraft. I'm here from the Jacksonville Community Land Trust.
Thanks, Robin.
The city had passed legislation 3 years ago now, I think it is, that every community lot that came back to the city as city surplus would come through us to guarantee permanent affordability in housing. We are ready to go. We're ready to turn dirt, and we have a lot of projects ready. We're working with developers. I think when we get our product in, we're going to be very impressed with the price and the product that we're going to have. So I'm very excited, and I brought my card, so you can certainly call us.
Yeah, and I think this is separate from the fund that we were talking about, right?
I think you were talking about community land trust.
She was talking about what we had proposed in terms of building additional affordable housing units through a fund that would be part city money and part private money.
40.
Yeah, the 40, right. So, but that's great. But I don't know how we came to the 4,000 number. Why don't you come up?
Because we want to get our facts right.
I understand. That's why I turn to my experts. I don't want to shoot my mouth off without knowing what I'm saying. Go ahead, Bill.
My husband is the former housing director Phil Perry, Chief Communications Officer. So,
Phil, you have to speak into the microphone, babe.
on your first question about the, why this public-private partnership, it's just one of many tools and programs we want to put forward, but it actually uses, as the mayor said, brings the $10 million to the city, it's just kind of the base starter loan, if you will, and that attracts all the private and philanthropic investment. And so, and then it uses tax credits with the state to basically provide developers with loans and they
It's
reuse
gap-
that
the gap
money and
fund,
build-
right? Yeah.
Right, so they actually build the units and then eventually through the tax credits get the money back and it recycled itself about 4 or 5 times over the 20 years. And so it's just one of the, that's why we use that, want to propose that model is because basically we build more than 1,000 units by just that $10 million loan to the city using this kind of tax credit and model of that. So it's just one of the tools we have. We also have some funds that we provide these incentives to developers to directly build affordable housing units. So it's just kind of how we close a gap for the developers when they're building an affordable housing unit. They basically have like $1 million, let's say, on a couple hundred units, and the city can help them. They kind of close that gap to make sure that the financing works. So different models and ways to do it.
Yeah, really, right, I'm sorry.
You're welcome to talk more, Phil. Thank you very much. Yeah, Josh is not here tonight. I wanted to also point out, we just saw Charles Briggs, who's the head of our Jacksonville Journey efforts. Wave, Charles. Thank you for being here tonight. And Chester, yes. And Chester Akins, who is my executive assistant and jack of all trades extraordinaire. Okay, yes, sir. Good evening.
My name is Barry Carter.
How are you?
I rode my bike. Now, one of the things I noticed about bikes is how it's a tale of two cities. Some places in the town have lots of nice stuff, others don't. How do we get it all over the city? Because in the poorest parts of the city, where people need it the most, because they can't afford, they have to drive everywhere and have a house, and can't afford to go through the Congress board. And maybe they didn't have to drive because they could ride a bike.
I don't think these mics are working very well. I can't hear what he's saying.
Is there?
There you go. That's much better. Just put that right up in your mouth. There you go. Thank you. I'm sorry to make you repeat that, but I was trying desperately to hear you. I heard you say Tale of Two Cities.
Yes.
Some areas get more than others. I got that part. Go ahead.
Whereas you know that, like, with the Manga,
It's okay.
Yes, I'm talking about bikes. I always talk about bikes. One of the things I notice is you have the Nimmo Trails are great. I think it's 100 miles instead of just 33. But you go up into the poorer neighborhoods, and you don't have anything. You have bike racks in high points. You go up to McDuff, and there's nothing. I mean, it's like two different cities. But you have just as many people riding bikes over there as you do in Five Points, as you do over at McDuff and Deegan. But you don't have facilities.
You're talking about bike racks? You're talking about...
Bike racks, bike lanes,
Bike lanes, yeah.
all the different stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you.
And also the bike lanes would be, you go on Oak Street, which is in this neighborhood, it's always nice and clean. But then you go to McDuff and it's always a mess, it's full of trash.
Well, I'm going to argue with you a little bit on that one, just because I will say I know there's trash everywhere, and it's frustrating for me. But I will tell you that we're doing a whole lot better on the Blight front than we were doing. We just need more. We need more budget there, frankly. But I will tell you that in terms of the Tale of Two Cities business, I have been working tirelessly since I got into this office to try to make that not the case.
Right. Everybody knows. I don't see it. You see it in every city in the country. It's not just here.
Yeah, no, well, it is, but it's not acceptable.
No,
One of our major goals is to make sure that we have less pedestrian deaths, right? It's way too much, and we're talking about how we can get more protected bike lanes, making sure that we have the ability for people to get on their bikes and ride without worrying they're going to get smashed by a car, and that's a process. Again, I'm going to say what I tell everybody. This is why I know you guys probably get tired of hearing me talk about downtown. But I want to tell you why I talk about it so much. We've got an enormous city, and we have the lowest taxes of any major city in this state, by far, okay? And we like that. We want to keep our taxes low, but what does that mean? That means we've got to find a way to invest in things in our city that bring us a return that allow us to invest money into the rest of the city. So if I've got a teaspoon of peanut butter, and I try to spread it over, 25 miles of bread, it's not going to go very far, right?
I mean, the whole loaf would be good.
Right, so yeah. So my point is that something's got to change in that math. And what we don't want to do is raise taxes. So what do we have to do? We have to find a way to invest in our city in a way that we will get a big return on that investment so that we can spend money in all of our neighborhoods because they need it. Okay? So one of those ways, and I think the major way we can do that is by finally, and I hope you're noticing what's going on in downtown, is by finally seeing all the cranes in the air in downtown, working on development that's going to bring a lot more people downtown, not only people that live here, but people who don't live here. And that will provide us with a lot more return for our citizens that we can then invest in the rest of the city. I am absolutely committed to making that happen because we want to maintain our quality of life and low taxes. But something, you cannot do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. That's called insanity, right? And that's what we've done in this city for so long. And if we really want a thriving downtown, and we want thriving neighborhoods, and we want not a tale of two cities, we have to do something differently. And that's why you have seen me work so aggressively to try to make some of these projects downtown go quickly. Because I want that investment, I want that money coming in, and I want our city to be something we can be proud of. Not just part of our city, but all of our city, right? I'm with you. It's a process. It's a process. And look, we talk a lot about the budget. That's what we're talking about tonight. A budget is a value statement. And so our budget really needs to reflect our priorities as citizens, which is what we're trying to get to with these conversations. So I hear you and I agree with you 100%. Councilman Peluso and I were just having that conversation the other day about the protected bike lanes. It needs to happen. And we need to make sure that we are investing in those areas of our city that have been left behind for the longest. And I'm very committed to doing that. Thank you.
Why do you have one other question?
Go right ahead.
Simple. Probably doesn't matter. Okay, the police and fire got a big, great deal. Right?
They got an increase, they got a big increase, but you know what? They needed it.
Yes.
They needed it.
But how about the general employees? They needed it.
Listen, no doubt. But look, these are people, and look, I know there are people out there, and I hear from you all over this. I know you have I know there are issues sometimes. But I will tell you that everywhere I go in this city, regardless of that, people say to me, we want to feel safer. We want to feel safer in our neighborhoods. We want to feel like when we call the fire department, they can get there in a reasonable amount of time. These are really important things in a big city, and they do affect our insurance rates too. So I looked at the amount of money that these folks were making and what they were trying to do in terms of retention, and they were failing in retention because every other fire department, police department in this state had a pension and they didn't. And so we had to bite a very big bullet and make sure that they could get back on a level playing field with other agencies. And so we did that. And I'm proud that we did that. I wish we had money for every single thing right now that we want to do. But what we're trying to do is get ourselves to a place where the quality of life for our citizens is something they feel good about, and safety is first and foremost with that. Absolutely. Infrastructure's been a big deal.
You have the pension and the low-pay problem there too. It's that same problem.
Listen, we are working heavily on infrastructure in this city. We have hit all of our infrastructure targets in terms of getting infrastructure done, and we're continuing to do that, especially in our areas that have been left behind. But it's never gonna be fast enough, because there's always gonna be more city, to get to. But we're working as hard as we can, I promise you, we are. And if you have a specific area you wanna talk to Melissa about, she'll be glad to take your info. Thank you. And Melissa, if y'all could, try to, either outside or sit, I'm having trouble hearing. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening. My name is Jessica Wilson. I'm here with Jacksonville Chapter of National Organization for Women, or Jax Now.
Thank you for being here.
As well as taking down Jax.
Okay.
And first of all, I
We did take them down, by the way.
I know, thank you so much. For focusing on making Jacksonville better for all in the face of partisan hostility. It is commendable that you maintain focus on solutions and communicate with citizens by hosting these town halls and listening sessions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I do want to ask about the Brentwood board. Why were they able to break ground without permits? Why were the area residents not notified and given the chance to provide their input? There are spaces around the city, but this was erected in a predominantly black neighborhood near a school and practically in one resident's backyard. I don't think anybody in here would want a morgue in their backyard. I understand the building is already exists, so we can't just undo it. But maybe why not repurpose it to something that actually benefits the community? You mentioned wanting to make Jacksonville better, to improve the quality of life for all Jacksonville citizens. That does include Brentwood. So hundreds of Jacksonville residents recently joined Brentwood neighbors to protest the morgue built in their neighborhood. My question is, how is the city responding to these protests and these residents?
Well, I will tell you, and there's not a lot that I can say about this because there's a lawsuit, but I will tell you that I promised the residents of that neighborhood that I would sit down personally and meet with them, along with our general counsel and others, and we did that last week. We are absolutely doing our best to work through solutions for that. Look, I want you to understand something. I promise you I'm not trying to pass the buck. But this was something that was approved and permitted and approved and begun before I got into office, okay? I cannot, as one person, even as the mayor of the city, undo something that another administration approved and a council approved. That's their prerogative, and I can't just undo that. What I can do is sit down and see if we can figure out solutions. One of the things that I have told the folks in that neighborhood, and I don't know what all the possibilities are here. That's going to be up to, people, not me. That will not be up to me. What I will tell you is we will continue to try to work towards solutions, whether it's the one you mentioned or whether it is trying to, one thing we have told the neighbors that we absolutely want to do is help them create a community overlay. That so many other communities in this city have, that would have, at the very least, made that a higher hill to climb. I understand, 100% understand the frustration. I think some of the frustration comes from decades of being ignored. This is, I know we keep calling it a morgue. It is a medical examiner's office that is absolutely needed. We need it. I think we were able to make sure that questions were answered about chemicals and there's no crematorium there, any of that. None of that exists, okay? It would be just like any doctor's office disposing of blood or anything else. A couple blocks down the street, you have a funeral home that probably on any given day has about as many deceased people in it as this medical examiner's office is going to have. So I think it has a lot more to do with, you know what, how come you never listen when we tell you what we want? Or how come you never ask us before it gets done? Now, it may be the medical examiner's office too, but I think the bigger frustration is, they felt like it was all done the wrong way. And I get that. Now all I can do is try to come up with the best solutions for those neighbors that I can. I don't know if that would be a $40 million investment that we'd have to go and find another $40 million to invest in someplace else. It's just not money that grows in trees.
I completely understand that.
But I promise you, and I promise them, I will work with them in whatever way I can to try to make this good for them. Just like we did with the liquor store, making sure that it became, it is gonna be hopefully I know it's gonna be a business center, but also perhaps used for some community events as well.
So I will say, having worked directly with the organizers of this, it is not just not being listened to. They're angry about it being a morgue.
Yeah.
And they are angry about not being listened to.
I think it's all of the
But
above.
being asked in the first place, because in most neighborhoods, when something is changed, when zoning is going to be changed, when something new is going to be put up, a charter school or whatever is being erected, and I realize it's not you, but I'm asking like specifically the city.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And, residents are given the opportunity for input, and they weren't.
It's another one of those things that, like the gentleman said before, it's a tale of two cities.
Of course.
It wouldn't happen in certain neighborhoods. I get all of that. Now I'm just trying to, as you said, somebody said earlier, I'm working for solutions. That's what I've tried to do from the day that I walked in the door. And I will continue to do that. And I will tell you that regardless of things you hear in the media, I would tell you that most of our council people are looking for solutions too. They really are. That's why we've been able to succeed in doing so much work in the first 20 months that I've been in this office. Without council, we couldn't have done that. So don't let a few, bits of politics or flame throwing or whatever, let you lose sight of the fact that we have together, this office and the council accomplished a great deal.
Oh, and we absolutely
And
recognize
we'll
that.
continue to do that. So.
Just wanted to continue the conversation.
No, and I listen, I appreciate it, and I promise you we're working on it. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good to see you, of course.
James Eddy. One of my passions, major passions, is the parks in our city. And I've talked to Darryl about this numerous times, going to different one of these. In fact, we're investing in our parks downtown, and where we've added 4 parks, or in the process of adding 4 parks to our city. When are we going to look about reducing the number of parks? So in the budget, so we save money, because like one of my main parks is where I live, is the Panama Park. It's a mess. It's got fences that are rusted out, things that are broken, constantly you put things in over and over again, but really it's the whole park. Are you planning on getting a group together to look to reduce the amount of parks, the money that we have in the budget for parks is able to actually keep up basic things like cables? Because it's not just one park.
Yeah, that's a tough conversation for me, I gotta be honest, because you don't get land back. You don't get public lands back, you don't get park space back. Once it gets rolled over for development, it ain't coming back, ever. So I would be absolutely loath to ever give back park space. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that you don't prioritize certain park space. Maybe that's, and I'm sure we already do that. But at the end of the day, I don't know, I think it was Mayor Delaney that started the process of really setting aside so much, making sure that we had so much park space. I absolutely love that. It's sad that what we have to talk about is because we don't have the budget, we should be giving up land for parks. But that,
Because we've added.
yeah.
It's not like we've not added parks.
Well, there's gotta be a better solution than that, James. I just don't think giving back park space is the way to go.
Okay, then kind of on another note, has to also do with parks, is with 630 City, is when we put something in and they close the ticket like it's done, when it's not even done. What can be done about that?
Well, that shouldn't happen,
And
so
it's happened.
do we have anybody here from 630? Oh, that Richard's here. Richard Reichert can talk to you about that.
So a lot of times what happens with stuff like that, they get duplicate tickets get put in, and unfortunately, they'll close much of the duplication and they stick with the original one that was in there. And we're redoing that system now,
Okay,
so I'd love to have this conversation again in about 3-4 months.
okay. Because I can see it, because a good example of that is Willow Branch Park is, there was only one picnic table in Willow Branch Park. The leg has been broken for literally 2 years. I put it in, And then it got closed up. I'm like, okay, I'll go back to the park, because I don't even live in the side of town when I helped a warm project did one went over, it still worked. Still the same thing, nothing was ever done to it. So then again, literally within a day, it was closed again. So it needs to stop.
I'm gonna tell you this though, really truly, and I'm not just saying this, I promise you. I've spent time over there with the people that work in 630 City.
Yeah.
They're working their tails off. They really are. So I do think this is a system glitch that we just need to correct. These are not people that are just trying to, hey, let's just throw that out. Yeah, so they really are working hard. So, and that's why Richard has worked hard to try to make that whole program more efficient. And I think that, if we can continue to get feedback like that, I think it's helpful. But thank you. I'm sorry you've had that experience, and we are working on it. Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Deegan. My name is Tom McGuire.
Hi, Tom.
And I want to thank you for all you've done, for being here tonight. My number one priority at this point is economic development in the city, especially as we are facing falling wages in the city. I've been looking for work for a while. I've got a job, but it's not paying my bills. And I keep seeing the wages that are offered going down, and we need to do something to arrest that. So we've got to do things to increase fiscal responsibility in the school. That's why I'm in the city. That's why I'm absolutely opposed to a new jail. Also, we need to consider impact fees to slow the growth of the city to a manageable level, so that we don't get to a point where just managing the infrastructure and police and fire is going to be almost all of our budget.
Well, hear me out. What if we actually directed that growth to areas where we already have infrastructure instead of constantly trying to create new infrastructure? What if we directed that growth to areas that have built-in infrastructure that all we have to do is fortify that, and that way we're not continuing with so much sprawl. I mean, that's why, again, I'm going to talk about downtown again. Let's bring more people downtown. We got plenty of room downtown. For people to come live, work, and play, and we want that. So I'm not trying to discourage anybody from being anywhere, but I will tell you, these constant, permittings of things where there's absolutely no infrastructure, and then spending all of our money creating infrastructure when we've got plenty of places where we can create infill, to me, that's what's fiscally irresponsible. It's not the people. It's not the growth. The growth needs to be driven in the proper places, and it needs to be sustainable, and we need to make sure we're building in places that aren't going to be underwater in 20 years. But beyond that, what was your other point? I want to make sure I'm
in economic development to bring more jobs to the working people of Jacksonville that actually pay enough to pay.
Well, that's what we are working so hard to do. I mean, honestly, that's why I said it's so important to have these meetings. Because you can't know what we're doing unless we tell you what we're doing. I mean, we are working every day to bring those companies into Jacksonville that are going to create those higher wages and create those opportunities for people to work. It's all part of everything that we've wrapped our arms around this first 20 months for economic development. It's been a huge part of what we've done. It's one of the big focuses of downtown. It's one of the big focuses of some of y'all laugh about the trips to London. We brought a lot of companies here from London that have either set up shop here or set up an arm of their company in Jacksonville. Good paying jobs. We're going to continue to do that. So we're very focused on that. Jimmy, you want?
I just want to bring up the CBA on workforce development.
That's right. That's right, yes. Workforce development is a big piece of the community benefit agreement, that $300 million agreement that we just signed with the Jaguars. I know Whitney's here from the Jaguars, aren't you, Whitney? Where are you? There she is, right there. Thank you, Whitney, for all your work on all of that. That community benefits agreement was tough to get to, and Whitney and others at the Jaguars did a great job of helping us get there.
And we also assess mobility fees as opposed to traditional impact fees. So fees are being assessed on developers, and that money goes into Blight pedestrian.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
But all people think no dollars.
Oh no, absolutely, and that's always constantly reevaluated. It's a balance, though, right? Because you want people to develop in your community in the places where you want them to develop, and I feel like we are getting to the point in our city when you, like I said, you see all the cranes downtown, I'm very excited about that. The hope is to get to a point where this takes on enough of a life of its own to where, you know, people are beating down our door and we're not begging them to come. You know, we're getting there, so.
And one more point, I want to see the city work to reduce the cost of the trash collection services, because now we're paying more, so they have money to invest in improving their service and reducing their cost. Meridian in particular is inefficient. They are the trash collector in my neighborhood, and they have equipment that is more dated than their competitors.
Okay, thank you, I'll look into that. Appreciate you.
Oh, and one other thing.
Okay, I know, we got a bunch of people to get to.
Very super quick. One, is there someone who can talk to me about the traffic flow in my neighborhood here?
Oh, poor Nina. Nina's on point tonight. Go, Nina. No, I'm good. I've got one right up there. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Oh, y'all try to keep your questions to one or two so we can get to everybody tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for being here.
My name is Benicia Davis.
Benicia.
I'm from North Riverside, where the new brother.
Yes, ma'am.
In my neighborhood, it's good to see the new growth and families moving back in. We have small children. I'm very concerned about the traffic flow and the children, because the new children that's coming, they're not accustomed to the narrow streets and all that traffic. Their bus stops are right there in the budget, in the infrastructure. Is there some way we can get speed bumps or something so low the traffic down there comes through our neighborhood?
What street are we talking about?
King Street.
King Street.
The bridge is coming over McCoy Street in my trail.
So you're not talking about the trail itself. You're talking about the King Street.
King Street.
Yeah, the problem with speed bumps is that half the people love them and half the people hate them. So to get a community to agree on speed bumps is hard. But do you have something to say about that, Councilman Peluso? Councilman Peluso has something to say just about it. And listen. What's that? No, come on up, Jimmy. Here, grab the microphone. See what happens when you sit in the back, Chris? You don't get called on. The teacher doesn't call on you when you sit in the back.
Thank you, Mary, I appreciate it.
Come on, if you want to talk.
In regards to speed bumps, so speed bumps, we created a new process that just started in January 1st of this year. Basically, you need about 65% or 60% of your street that you want speed bumps on, or any type of speed limiting activity. It could be a stop sign, it could be speed tables, or it could be a speed bump. Right? What happens is we get JSO, we get JFRD, we get the planning department. Everyone kind of comes out, meets with the community, and they say, hey, look, keep in mind, if we do a speed bump here, that means our response time will be reduced. Or, hey, it might not actually be the best way to reduce speeds. Oftentimes, they'll come to the community will decide if they want to do it. Then they need to get 60% of the street to agree to a speed bump. Right now, the cost of speed bumps are about $4,500. $4,500 per speed bump. If the traffic department deems that that street has a massive amount of traffic flow, they will pay for the speed bump. If they deem that it does not, and it's just something the community wants, and JSO and JFRD don't say, hey, this is a really bad idea, then if we do a speed bump, the cost usually is burdened on the neighbors. So that is why there are times where, depending on the community that you're in, depending on how much traffic there really is, it might not always be the best idea. We might want to start with a stop sign. Or maybe there is a real need, and we're going to do a whole bunch of good stuff to kind of slow down speeds. Speed limiting is a big deal right now, especially in our older communities. And a lot of neighbors get really upset when you take a fast road and try to slow it down in some cases. We saw that happen in Sutel a couple of years ago. So we need to make sure that when community members do come up and say, I want to see a slowdown on this street or that street, that we really get the community involved in that conversation. And once we can get the street about at 60% approval, then I've got no problem putting some speed bumps in. And I might even be able to find a couple bucks to do it. But depending on the neighborhood, sometimes it's going to be shouldered by the neighbors. Other times, sometimes I can find a few dollars to kind of help. But it depends on the budget year. So I think, Mayor, if I was to ask, maybe increase how much the city council districts get for speed bumps. It'd make it a little bit easier. But the point is, there's a process to do it, I'll be happy to talk to you about it. We just gotta get your neighbors involved.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I don't want children to get killed and it could be a boy.
I understand.
Where I live, I have to come out.
And listen, if you wanna leave us your information so we can follow up with you and see if we can start that conversation and start the process, we'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Who are we gonna give that to? Are we gonna give that to Tracy? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Deegan.
Good evening.
My name is James Clear.
Hi, James.
I am a resident of Jacksonville and a homeowner.
Yes, sir.
I may be one of the few homeowners and taxpayers coming up here tonight who will say that somehow I want you and the city commission to meet in the middle. Having been affected, and you know it, by Hurricanes Charlie, Francis, and Jimmy, I was in Lake Wales. I was pastoring at the time. Church Mutual and several other predominant church insurers just cut about 75% of the people immediately. So churches had to go to the commercial market. That affected, for those of you who are working in your churches and work with church budgets, you know that after 2004, your church insurance went up tremendously. So what I'm saying is this. With the insurance industry, you know what happened in the state of Florida.
Yep.
It first affected churches, and it affected all of the other homeowners. What happens with your trash haulers is the same thing. They're starting to consolidate. Doesn't matter whether it's Meridian or Public, Waste Management, it doesn't matter what you call it. Because of the competitive action in the market, and because trash is a part of what gives you what you want, return on investment, improved quality of life, and whatever the third aspect is, it fills it. If we don't do that, then you're going to find yourself with fewer supply. And having been affected, I can tell you what happens. It gets ugly. So somehow meet in the middle, find a way to build some type of reasonable quality improvement, escalation percentage that is acceptable to both.
Well, I will tell you that that has always been our goal. I'm still very hopeful. I'm still very hopeful that we will be able to do that.
I'm hopeful too. Of course, the newspapers are always trying to make it seem otherwise.
Yes.
We personally know, having been in the media.
Let me assure you that, I mean, truly, let me assure you, the only reason I am here to do this job is because I deeply love this city and the people in it. And I have no interest in fighting with the city council about anything. What I have tried to do from day one, and I will say again, I think the majority of them do the same thing. What we have tried to do since day one is find a way, find a path forward together. And I think we had an instance that had some additional complications that caused us a problem on this particular issue, but we are still working on it, and I am hopeful that we will get to a resolution that will be good for everybody.
Please stay open and do it, because
that's my job.
That is your job.
That's my job.
And having known you over the years and knowing that you're a reasonable person, you're going to make this work. It's not that I want to pay more taxes, but I want to live in a city that gives a good quality of life.
Yes, sir. Me
and
too.
Everything I've seen so far, Jacksonville offers a good quality of life, and you have added to it.
Well,
so
thank
continue.
you. That's very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Good evening. I just want to start congratulations on all the accomplishments that you've done so far. Sorry, did you hear me? Sorry,
I'm
I
sorry.
just
Yeah,
want
you're
to
all
congratulate you on
What's
the
your name?
accomplishments.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry. My name is Shanice Stutman. I work downtown at a law firm, and we've been so adamant about the downtown possibility of quality of life. One of the main concerns that I see a lot when I'm going home and travel to work, the homelessness down there.
Yep.
It's incredibly bad. It's disheartening to see how many people are down there, laid out on the streets, even when they're lined up at the shelters. It's very disheartening. And I know that you have a homeless outreach program, and you guys are, working towards the homelessness down there. But when you look into what's going on with the homeless outreach program, there are, some disparities on how well it's working. So
we just started.
Right.
So, okay. Give us a little time. We just started.
All right. So one of the things that you're trying to do is increase the amount of beds.
Yes.
Why are you not trying to increase the amount of shelters? There are many buildings down there that you guys can allocate some funds to in order to create more shelters down there. And once you do create, or your plan is to increase the beds there.
Just so you know, that is part of the plan.
Okay.
When we say more beds, we're trying to get those more beds from any places we can get those beds. We're not just talking to the shelters.
Okay.
But the fact is, especially say you're trying to contract, well, Tracy, you can speak to this, but hotel rooms, those are expensive, right? And frankly, it's not just that. You have to, it's not just about putting people in a place. You have to make sure that you give them the wraparound services they need so that they're not just back out on the street the next second they can get back on the street. Right. You can't just move them from one place to another and call yourself successful.
Right. But you're increasing the beds, but what are you doing once they're done with that time frame, that 90 to 128 time frame, that they get to stay at the shelter? What are you doing to help these homeless people actually, stop being homeless?
Tracy, why don't you talk a little bit about the homelessness initiative? And council's been working on this with us as well.
Yeah, is Chief Howard still here?
Yes.
Chief, do you want to come on down?
Chief, do you want to come down with Tracy? Chief is a little shy, so don't believe that.
We have just started this program. I'll let Chief talk a little bit about the JFRD PATH team, which is providing assistance to the homelessness. And you're correct that we are going to be increasing the amount of shelter beds, but the 12-point plan that we announced last July that the mayor mentioned, we asked City Council for $10 million for. That included both prevention, but also helping address case management. So we just found out that we got a $1 million grant from the feds in the beginning of January. We're going to use some of that money to put case managers on all of the shelters. So to your point, not just taking somebody off the street and putting them into a shelter for the night, but really doing deep outreach work and understanding what folks need, what kind of income they have. The gentleman that we were talking to out there who just has Social Security, do you know how much that payment typically is in 2024? It's about $1,900 a month. Do you know what the average rent in, right? So, exactly, and if that's your only form of income or disability, which is much less than that, you see the problem. So part of the plan is also taking hotel rooms and turning them into efficiency apartments or one-bedroom apartments. So we have a lot in that sort of continuum of service, but as you know, this costs money, so that's why the mayor is here talking about her budget. But I would like the chief to just talk a little bit about what the PATH team has been doing.
Hey, good evening, Chief Powers. So our PATH team goes out and is trying to compassionately help those homeless people get off the street where we can stay as a city in compliance with the state law, new state law that says you can't camp in public. And I've got some great stories that are related to this. So our team is working with these folks, not only getting them in the shelter beds and getting them off the street, but get the city in compliance. Because, the city can be sued for us not enforcing that new law. But these folks are so passionate about what they're doing. They're helping these folks. We've got people that have gotten homes out of this. We've got people that have gotten into 90-day programs to help them with their drug addiction. We've got people that have gotten jobs because of what the work that the PATH team's doing. You can see, anybody that's in the downtown area right now can see it's not perfect, but it's way better than it was a month and a half ago, and it's going to continue to get better. If you've got a problem, a specific problem, if you'll call 630 City, that's where we're reporting the problems. Our PATH team pulls those problems, complaints out of 630 City and then we go out and deal with it. But the team, anybody that knows those folks that are on that team knows they are extremely passionate about helping folks, like just about every one of our other JFRD people are. They love to help people, and they're doing some great work. They moved into some of the other areas of town. We're trying to help with that Beach Boulevard area and some other areas, but all you gotta do is call 630 City and we'll get them over there and they'll start trying to help if there's a specific incident you know about. But they are doing great work and they are making some differences in people's lives already in a very short period of time.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate it.
Just one more question. So the grant for the teacher shortage, is there anything that you would be able to do or what the plan is for that since it's been basically rescinded by the federal government?
I don't know anything about that. I think that's probably an ECPS question. Thank you. Sorry. If I don't know something, I'm going to tell you. Thank you.
Hey, Mayor Deegan.
How are you?
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I was with you on Friday at the mayor's ball, so.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My name is Denise Hoffman. I work for the Office of Domestic Violence for the Florida Department of Families. We currently have a $10 million budget right now statewide to assist survivors of domestic violence with housing and housing solutions. We are looking at hotels as extended stays. But with that, we also noticed that there are a lot of landlords who will not rent to folks that would be eligible by themselves without that additional funding. So even though we have the homelessness problem, a lot of the solutions around it can be met or faced or seen as difficult or challenging because developers, because private landlords, they're not aware or they don't understand that these programs will assist them long-term or can assist them long-term. That we're looking into things like economic development. I get to oversee economic justice programs statewide, but here in Jacksonville, one thing that I'm seeing is that, like we said before, the tale of two cities, where we have, I live near Orange Park. I drive my son to the south side for school, and then I drop my mom off to the east side at the Kennedy Center for work every day. And then I go back home and I work. At the Kennedy Center, I'm not sure the last time anyone's been there, but the Kennedy Center doesn't even have a working elevator most of the time. And my mom is legally blind, and she can't walk up and down the steps. It took me literally using my professional voice to work my way up, using words like accessibility, using words like ADA compliance to get to Daryl, and I appreciate you. He addressed it, but it took me literally fussing with people days at a time. And at the same time, that was when the little boy had the incident in the pool at the Kennedy Center. So I think that's why it became a priority. But what I'm seeing is that there's a difference in priorities, even with CBA, even with basic things. With CBA, my question is, even with that, are we talking to the actual residents and seeing what the assessment and the needs are in that community? So right now, and I'm hoping that's happening.
Yes.
So,
Especially, we've worked extensively with the folks on the east side.
And I'm talking east side specifically. So what I'm saying
Yes.
is, when we go into the things like the Kennedy Center, right? The elevator works half of the time, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's something that we put in requests for consistently.
I can tell you the same thing is true at City Hall.
And that's really sad, because there are people that come there for things like aftercare programs, substance abuse programs, meetings, AA meetings, NA meetings, and again, my mother. So with that being said, there is a difference in priorities. I tear my little gravity car up every single day when I get to the east side. My son even says, oh, why does the road look like this on this side of town, but not over there? And so that kind of thing, I know that we're working on it, but I just wanted to know where we are as far as looking at the priorities and prioritization. So even on the east side, there is a playground over there that literally is within arm's reach of a cemetery. Not just that, but of course we have to deal with something there too, which is fine, I get it. But that kind of thing, what are the priorities and how do we prioritize communities when it comes to even just looking at assessment, when we're looking at need, when we're looking at priorities in general?
Listen, This is why you've heard me say from the time that I was running for this office that we have got to start making good on the broken promises of consolidation. We have worked every day since I've been in this office to try to change the priorities to do that, whether it is moving projects in the capital improvement plan up that continue to get shoved down in those areas of the community, or whether it's just making sure that people like Al Ferraro, who's done a great job with our Blight department, spend more time, whether it's increasing our mowing budget to make sure that the mowing and the edging is done over on the east side and other areas that we're constantly being skipped. We have moved the wheel of government as fast as we can possibly move it, which is not always as fast as we want it to move, to focus on the areas that have been historically left behind. And that CBA is specifically targeted. More money is going to the east side than to, I mean, how much money is going to the east side, Mike? How much money is going to the east side out of that CBA?
75 million to Jack, and now 50 million to the city.
By far more money going to the east side than any other community that is out there. So we know where the needs are, we know where the neglect has been, and we are working our fastest to fix it. It does not mean it will happen overnight, but that's why I'm glad to have people like you come into meetings like this to give us specific examples. Thank you for connecting with Daryl. There ain't nobody better in the world that's gonna try to help you than that. But we will, it sounds like the elevator is a big concern for you?
Oh, not just the elevator. They don't have lighting, they don't have anything out there. The parking is here, it's
All
there.
right, well.
So I would love for you all at some point to just walk out there and see what it looks
All
like.
right, I'll do it.
For the evening.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
I'm Doug Henning.
Hi, Doug.
I want to say thank you for all the work you're doing to bring the funds to the city, to our community, to tackle the Tale of Two Cities problem that we have. I think I want to reinforce what some people are saying about infrastructure investing, particularly speed bumps. If we could get one on Blanding, that would be great. Get one right across Blanding, right near Lakeshore Barbecue.
Every time I've been on Blanding, there's been a parking lot, so I don't know what you're talking about.
That's the other part of it. But I also want to talk about what's under the roads. You just mentioned the broken promises of consolidation. And one of the ones I haven't heard as much about recently, and it's probably there, is the sewer. A lot of communities are still not on sewer after decades and decades, including our neighborhood in Lakeshore, about 2 miles from here.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what the plans are for that. And,
Lakeshore?
Or in Lakeshore, or any other communities, particularly the Northwest Quadrant.
Yeah. I think we have, didn't you send me a list of the ones that have just been completed?
Or just look what the future timeline is on
I don't know if I have that with me tonight, the future timeline, but we can absolutely get that to you. We're moving faster than we were, I will say that. There's an issue sometimes in getting 70% of the neighborhood to agree to have the septic tanks removed.
Oh.
You gotta get a 70% approval, and I don't love that because they need to come out.
You get 100%, aren't you?
Well, maybe, but we're trying to work on a plan that might reduce that to at least 50%.
Okay.
Some of these are leaching into the ground and they need to come out. And so it was one of the first things I did when I got into office is I called JEA and I said, why do we have all this money sitting here for septic tank removal that we're not using? And they said, we were going as fast as we can, given the fact we have to get a 70% approval and the fact that it takes forever to move this heavy equipment to get the projects done. I think we just completed several.
Yeah, it's a billboard, Beverly Hills West, we just completed, and then Christabel neighborhood is currently underway. And then Riverview is currently in the outreach process. We're trying to get those 50%, 70% of the neighbors say, let's go. And so the next one coming up.
Okay, cool.
So I promise you we're going as fast as we can.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to ask.
It's very, very important to me. And I'll tell you the other thing that I wish we could change. We're still putting them in some places. This is when I talk about the fact that we're still building in places that don't have infrastructure and the answer is to put in septic tanks, that should be your red flag. Perhaps that's not the place you want to.
You just deny all permits.
Yeah, well, if it were up to me, unfortunately it isn't. But I will tell you that we are moving faster than we were. And we really are trying to go as fast as we can.
And the other issue I want to bring up was, we talked about infill, and I'm very much in favor of
Yes,
infill,
yes,
buying as much parkland as possible
you bet.
and developing around it. But what are the rotting skyscrapers that our downtown is full of?
Well,
All the floors and floors and floors and floors. That used to be offices, used to be
Well,
housing.
look, you know,
Is there a plan to do something about the landlords that are just squatting, essentially?
I think that obviously the pandemic made things very complicated for life.
I guess some of the projects.
In downtown and other ways. You know, you have a lot of people that are still working from home, and that's caused us a problem in terms of valuations of those properties. That's one of the reasons why we've had a budget challenge the last couple of years, or the last year, and then probably this year too, is because those valuations are constantly being redone because there's nobody in those buildings or less people in those buildings, right? So we don't get as much tax revenue from those buildings as we.
Well, they leave the windows open so no one can.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm still hopeful that at some point that we're gonna get more people into those buildings, but at the end of the day, I'd love to look at some sort of, you know, transfer of some of those to residential. That's expensive. So, you know, there are some buildings that are better fit for that than others. But I think the answer is to create more synergy downtown.
No, I agree.
And I think the more that you have people wanting to come live, work, and play downtown, the more those buildings are gonna be attractive.
Yeah.
So, but that's a process too.
All right, that expires.
Yes, thank you so much. I
Everybody
appreciate
said
it. Yes. This is, okay, so I guess, can we get, well, we've got, well, look, we got 3 more. Let's just take these, we'll just take them. I'll just take them, okay?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Kelly Paget. I teach U.S. history, or U.S. government actually here at Riverside.
God love you.
But I'm also a resident of this area. And so I appreciate your time. I appreciate the council members and also your staff being here. I know what it means to like stay after.
Well, thank you.
So my question is just in general. What is your administration's plans for dealing with the fact that we have a lot of uncertainty about grants from the federal government, as well as, you know, we have now apparently a new Florida Doge system. So what are we going to do to help fund those things like Emerald Trail? We talked about our homeless thing, which we know is an unfunded mandate from the state. So how are we going to get maybe some private investment or other grants to help with that?
Yeah, listen, I'm still very bullish on the fact that we'll get that Emerald Trail money and some of the other grant money. I think, you know, as somebody said the other day, there's a lot of dust out there right now, and we have to wait for it to settle before we figure out where we are. So I think it's awesome to have efficiency. One of the things that we implemented last year was our LEAN program, which is a program that's been great for businesses for many years, where you ask everybody to take a look, take classes in terms of becoming green belts and get to where they're more efficient in terms of how they do things. We've already saved over 100,000 hours doing that. We're going to continue to become more efficient that way. So I'm all for efficiency. What concerns me is taking a wholesale axe to things without you know, really having the intention of knowing what you're doing to just say that you did it. And so that's what I hope we don't do. But at the end of the day, you know, unfortunately, I do think that politics plays a role in some of that stuff, right? So what we have to work to do on the local level, because we ain't got no business whatsoever trying to be Washington, D.C., and I don't know why we would ever try to. We'd never get anything done. I think that locally we need to work on problem solving together to make sure that things like potholes and street lights and sewers and sidewalks and the things you guys really want to see done are done. Nobody wants to watch us fight over those things. So I truly believe that when all is said and done, we will get those federal grants. Perhaps not all of them, but I think the Emerald Trail is something that our state representatives, our national representatives have all been very behind. Our local representatives, obviously, so I'll be very surprised if that doesn't come through. But we're just going to have to roll with it for a little while and find out where we land, and then from there we'll continue to do what we do locally, and that is work together to solve problems. I mean, local government is the government that's closest to the people. So we should continue to work together and not worry about the rest of the national craziness.
Well, I appreciate your commitment to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Hi, my name is Tyra Smitty.
Hey, Tyra.
I'm here to follow up on the Brentwood question.
Yes, ma'am.
And the Brentwood board. One of the things when I was going through what happened within that community, it seemed like a lot of the rules and norms that the city has set for itself got skipped over.
Sounds like that.
With the emergency funding.
But I don't know, I wasn't here, so I couldn't tell you exactly.
Okay, well, that's what I understand, that they got skipped over their own norms. And I also further understand that there's a thing called the Neighborhood Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? Because from some folks, they say, oh, it's got all the teeth it needs. We just ignore it. Other folks say it doesn't have enough teeth in order for a neighborhood such as Brentwood to actually leverage it and say, hey, city, no, okay. But, that this is wrong.
No, listen, I think we need a stronger neighborhood bill of rights, but let me just say that when we're talking about Jimmy does too, apparently. But when we're talking about, that's why you heard me talking about the overlay. Council just passed legislation several months ago, or a couple months ago, I'm trying to remember when, that makes it more difficult to override an overlay. Which an overlay is simply a plan that you put in place for your own community that says, this is acceptable to us, this is not acceptable to us. Basically, this is what we want for our community. And if there's going to be some override of that, it's going to take more votes than what you would have in a garden variety. Overrides should be rare anyway, but they're not, and they should be. But I do think that if we've had a community overlay, I think that would be one of the ways in which to strengthen the community's hand in situations like that. And I have told that community I will work with them and give them the tools to create that if that is their desire. So, okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Nitty with the Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville.
Wonderful to see you. Thank
Happy
you.
belated birthday.
Thank you.
I'm only here tonight to say thank you so much for supporting the Cultural Service Grant Program. We're very excited to be entering this budget season, and we hope to continue to receive your support. And look forward to continuing to work with you to care about the arts and culture sector in Jacksonville. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yes, absolutely. Arts and culture. Our city is about arts and culture, and we need to grow it. So I'm totally with you on that. Yes, sir. Hey, Rudy. Good to see you. How fitting that you are the last man at the microphone.
Timing. Well, listen, my name is John Nooney. I'm in District 4, CPAC 3, School Board District 3. And let me just tell you why I'm here. First of all, I've got to applaud Councilman Peluso. He's on the Waterways Commission. And you have an unbelievable Parks Department led by Harold Joseph, Jill Langs, Brian Murphy. And, it was that leadership at Waterways. And let me just tell everybody, there's, regional partners, fine. That's an acronym for the Florida Inland Navigation District, 12 counties. It's the East Coast state of Florida. We also have the Northeast Florida Regional Council, 7 counties. And so, with the leadership on the waterways and your Parks Department, putting this property on Pottsburg Creek, which is next to a FEMA house, connects, to the Arlington River and downtown, where everybody wants to go, live, work, and play. So, what I wanted to share with you is that opens it up to the world. And this morning at 9 o'clock, I was in St. Johns County before the Board of County Commissioners. We got new leadership on that one. And I just came from the Mayor's Disability Council at 3 o'clock. And, let me just say that, everything, it's a quality of life issue. And, going forward, like I said, I've got my Mark Woods shirt. I'm wearing that.
Nice. Oh.
And David Bauer and I, Florida Times Union, every issue, it's worth getting into. So,
Where's the David Bauer shirt?
Oh, well, you're right.
David, how does Mark get a shirt and you don't get a shirt? That seems wrong to me. I don't have a shirt either, just so you know. No shirt for me. So, Melissa Ross has a shirt, Mayor got no shirt. Just saying.
But I'll tell you, it's going to be a great movie. It's going to be wicked, and I'll tell you what, we're on the worldwide international map, and thank you for your leadership.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you.